The entire west face of the house was black, save for 5 places. Here, the silhouette in paint of a man mowing a lawn. Here, as in a photograph, a woman bent to pick flowers. Still farther over, their images burned on wood in one titanic instant. A small boy, hands flung into the air. Higher up, the image of a thrown ball. And opposite him, a girl, hand raised to catch a ball, which never came down. I have loved the Fallout series since the first time I played Fallout 2 on my uncle's computer in the late 90s. If you don't recall, the original Fallout games looked something like this. They were isometric, they were difficult, and they were fantastic. Needless to say, every time another Fallout game comes out, I compare it to the original games. Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, and now Fallout 4 are some games made after Bethesda acquired the license. And Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas did not disappoint. When I first played through Fallout 3, I was taken aback by the radical change of the game. Was it a first-person shooter? I was confused. But I did see good reviews and I gave it a chance. Thankfully, they were able to replicate a lot of the world while changing the perspective to something wholly their own. My question is, does Fallout 4 live up to what Fallout 3 and New Vegas had to offer? There will be minor spoilers about Fallout 4 in this review, and I apologize. Just please know I don't really care. So if you want to avoid them, please click off this video now. Now, Fallout 4 does begin before the bombs fell. To be honest, it only lasts a few minutes before the player has to rush up to the vault. I won't tell you exactly what happens, but basically the main character is taken from the vault 200 years later in search of his family. From there, you can go back into the old town you lived in and meet up with your Mr. Handy Robot Codsworth. That is where the adventure begins. There are so many things to cover in this game, and it will be difficult to cover all of them. I am going to start out with the most updated feature, in my opinion. Crafting is pretty great in this game. You can customize plenty of different options for every single gun that you have. You can also take guns that you have too many of and turn them into scrap. You can build bases, turrets, disco lights, and just about any other item you can imagine. Armor can be modified in the same way that you do weapons. I never had a companion with me, and I'll talk about that in a bit, so I always had to carry my own stuff. The Armorer skill allows you to give your items deep pockets, which I took over extra armor so I could carry more junk. All of this also applies to power armor that you get early in the game. Thankfully, unlike other Fallout games, you can use the power armor from the beginning, allowing you to have a massive, unstoppable tank right from the start. They do take fusion cores, though, to power it up. Fusion cores run out fairly quickly, and you might want to wait to don the armor for when you really need it. They also kept the ability to craft drugs, letting you combine them in such ways that you can make items like the Psycho Buff, which does essentially the same effects of Psycho and Buff Out, and a little bit more. The game definitely makes me want to experiment with different kind of drugs, to see what they do with my character in game. The last piece I will touch on is the workshop. You can take your base and construct it in any way you want, building up the area for your own little homestead. This is a bit weird at times, sometimes as you remove entire buildings from the area, but other times you have to go inside and scrap it piece by piece. I will have to admit I am pretty terrible at building games like Minecraft, so I tend to just build up a big room with 10 beds and my settlers will be happy from there. Companions have been a big part of the Fallout series since the very beginning. The original games allow you to get followers that would help you with combat, follow you around, and most importantly, hold your shit. That's what I use mine for, or at least that's what I did use them for. See, I had a bit of a bug where my followers stopped following me around. This isn't too much of a problem, as I typically don't rely on them to take down enemies anyway. The issue I had was that they were my extra carrying space. Now that they don't follow me, I have to carry all my stuff myself. Thankfully, there is a perk for that, but that's getting a bit ahead of ourselves. So the companions don't follow me, but I can still talk to them. They do have a ton of personality, with some of them getting mad at you for little things you do. I don't want to include spoilers, but let's just say the companion system is really good when they aren't bugging out or just, gone. There are so many enemies in Fallout 4. Of course, there are the raiders, who are just humans that you can take out pretty easily. There are the typical staples that are in the game, such as Deathclaws, who are a bit more vicious this time around. Super mutants, who are awesome as always, but they don't have their little centaurs with them anymore, which I kind of miss. But now they have their little mutant dog, which is pretty awesome. The enemy I want to focus on is the ghouls. It seems that with the new hardware and software, the developers were allowed to make ghouls a lot scarier than they were in previous games. Instead of just stumbling towards you like they would in Fallout 3 and New Vegas, they actually run quickly, going down on all fours to leap out at you. It is pretty scary and awesome. I could go on forever about the different enemies, legendary enemies which give you better gear if you kill them, and so on. Again, this is something you should experience for yourself. I do quite enjoy the varying types of enemies in this game, even if most of the time they gang up and murder me. This game is buggy. This game's a mess. Sometimes the companions don't follow you where you need to go. They will get stuck in areas, and my friend has literally had to push them off buildings to make them work correctly. There's a bug in the PC version which makes the game crash at a certain point in a questline, and a varying amount of other bugs in the game. I have not been able to complete a quest because it is bugged, and now it says I have to go somewhere which the game does not allow me to go. That being said, this game is amazing and you should definitely get it. I am parroting pretty much every review out there, but this game is definitely worth getting. If you don't like the open world adventure games, A, why are you watching my video? And B, you might not enjoy this game. The only thing I can suggest is that if you are more patient than I am, you may want to wait a couple years for Fallout 4 to be released in a definitive edition of sorts, with all the DLC included. Other than that, enjoy the game for what it is now, because it's pretty marvelous.